Strong Stars, and welcome to the Rathole. I'm your host, Commissioner Zack Eichten. Last week, there were some major games with playoff implications, so let's hop into those matchup recaps right away. In game number one, we had Randy's Donuts versus Worse Than Trash, where team owner Tony Townsend continued his domination over team owner Noel Tigan and continues his undefeated streak against the former champion. Worse Than Trash got the second highest score of the week, beating Randy's Donuts 121.68 to 101.28. So how did we get here? Well, let's talk about the donuts first. First of all, Noel committed the worst possible self-handicap by playing Jared Goff. Anyone who does that, honestly, deserves to lose, confirmed. So Goff scored 10.8 or 10.48 points. Just abysmal performance and terrible choice there. But the bigger issue is Christian McCaffrey being re-injured in week 9 and did not play. Wayne Gallman filled in with 18.5 points, but he is no longer on the roster as this upcoming week will be a bye week for him. No, the issue here really was in the receiving core, where Michael Thomas and Travis Fulgham scored a combined 5 points. This is Thomas's only his third game this season, and overall this entire season, he scored a total number of 14.5 points in our league format. Definitely not great for Randy's Donuts. Mike Evans did pretty good, actually, with 16.7 points, but he's no longer on the roster. We'll get to that trade talk later, but we'll have to see if Noel can cobble together a full team for week 11. Tony Townsend and Worse Than Trash, however, played better than better than trash this week, honestly, being led by newly announced starter DeAndre Swift out of the Detroit backfield with 23.4 points. Truly fantastic. Herbert scored a 20.48 points, continues to be fantastic quarterback. Tony had those quarterback troubles at the beginning of the year, really has fixed it with Justin Herbert. Damian Harris had running back 2 numbers, 12.1, pretty good a score for not getting a touchdown on the game. Stephon Diggs, though, Justin Jefferson, and DJ Moore all scored over 17.5 points. Fantastic receiving core this week for Worse Than Trash. Honestly, the only disappointment on this team this week was TJ Hawkinson, down week at 2.3 points, but from a tight end, you expect that once in a while. Overall, quite frankly, just an excellent week from Worse Than Trash. So let's talk about game 2 then, where we had probably the most heartbreaking game in fantasy football I've ever seen, and the new leader in smallest victory margin in league history. The Gruesome Grinders beating the Rock Plopstas 107.34 to 107.12. That's a 0.22 point difference. Man, that's just tough to see. Let's talk about the Plopstas. What could have been, honestly, the amount of things that had to go wrong here are insane. First, Russell Wilson getting less than 10 points. Who would have thought that would happen? Losing 2 points to go under 10 due to a fumble. All of the rushing touchdowns in Philadelphia going away from Miles Sanders. Aaron Jones and Devonta Adams playing fine. Jones apparently had a tough game against a tougher than expected Jacksonville defense. And Devonta Adams had a fumble this past week, again losing 2 points. Allen Robinson getting his game-winning, for John at least, catch snagged by Cole Kmet for no reason. Nick Chubb intentionally going out of bounds at the 1-yard line to ice the game instead of just getting the touchdown, and also not catching his one target. Jason Sanders missing a field goal, and the Steelers not being able to get even one more sack or forced fumble. A lot of should-haves and what-ifs and all those out there, but at the end of the day, just not quite able to pull it out over Drew here. So let's talk about the insane amount of luck that Drew had. Drew has been known for trying to reverse psychiatry himself into getting some wins by just continuously saying to anybody he plays, this game is over. If he's down, by even a point at, 1 p.m. on Sunday, when clearly not, it is not over. Especially when Tom Brady scores you 31.84 points. Rushing touchdown for him. Derrick Henry and Mike Davis, disappointing, combining for 17.8 points. Just really not good when you have come to expect that from at least each of them individually. Tyler Lockett got banged up, and he got 9.1 points. Antonio Brown, okay, 10.1 points. But Chase Edmonds making the lineup over Kenyon Drake. We'll see if that continues. Drake did better by 0.2 on the bench, but quite frankly, this team got lucky. That's for sure. Grinders playoffs hopes stay alive. Let's talk about game number 3 then, where we have the Spring Chickens versus Pelicans on a bench. Again, that is Pelicans on a bench. I honestly don't know what to say about Lucas's team. They didn't win. Chickens win 105.6 to 81.62. So let's try to talk about the Pelicans here. Devin Singletary is just not a viable fantasy running back. Sorry, Lucas. I was big on the Devin Singletary train this year too. Just not happening. Zach Moss also just didn't do very well on the bench this week. Giovanni Bernard, starter for Cincinnati last week, but up against Pittsburgh, tough matchup for him. Adam Thielen, hey, good matchup for him. 2 touchdowns, but when the rest of the team, other than Tyler Bass, score less than 10 points, just not really possible to get a win in this league, most likely. I would say that setting Lucas's record aside, let's set that aside just for right now. Rough season. But he has only had the lowest score in the league in 5 out of 10 weeks. So meaning that if everything lined up perfectly for him, he would be at 5-5 right now. So remember that you still need to come to play. So just remember that you still need to come to play to make sure to beat the sneaky squad, because you don't want to be that one that plays underneath. Brennan and the Chickens, they played fine. Rodgers, 25.4 points, 2 touchdowns and 1 rushing. McKinnon, not great, only 5.1 points, and Dalvin struggled against a good Bears defense with 13.2. But Dalvin and the Chipmunks will be looking for a big bounce back next week. Chase Claypool, Rob Gronkowski played well. Ryan Suckup had 17 points. That's good. And they played fine. They played fine. Not great. Good enough to beat Pelicans on a bench. Again, that's Pelicans on a bench. All right, let's go into fraud territory. Game 4, we had the 2 fraudulent teams this year of the dog sniffers and not trading Lamar. NTL wins 90.16 to 88.02 in an extremely narrow win. I mean, technically I'm right. Josh has not lost since playing John, but Josh is still on that fraud list for sure. Let's dive into how we got here. Lamar Jackson, just not the same player as he was in 2019. That said, it's hard to get points when it's raining so hard. Even the perfect passes going right into the hands of receivers get dropped because the ball is just so slippery. Deshaun Watson, tough game against Cleveland in a very low-scoring game. He only threw for 163 yards. So just tough matchups for the QBs. In the battle for the running backs, the 2 Tampa Bay running backs, Ronald Jones versus Leonard Fournette. Ronald Jones got to rip off a 98-yard touchdown run where Fournette was held to 30 total yards on the day. In the battle of James's, James Conner lost to James Robinson, 12.2 to 5.8, as Conner struggled against Cincinnati for some reason. Josh wins on the margins on kicker and defense, where Thomas wins on the margins in the tight end category. Mark Andrews scoring points and Jimmy Graham scoring 0. But there was just enough marginal points in that defensive and kicker position to get the win for Josh. Essentially, that game winner for Matt Prater was the game winner for Josh as well, with such a close match. Regardless, both these teams on the fraud list for sure, and I don't think either would disagree with that statement after this past week's performance. In the Pong Stars game of the week, it was a beatdown of Zach and the Gluten Freaks over Sam and the Google team names, 130.06 to 75. Of the 9 starting spots in our league format to play fantasy football, the names outscored the frauds in one position, where Kyler Murray outscored Josh Allen by 3.04 points. Every single other position went to the Freaks. Running backs outscored the names by a combined 20.1 to 9.3. Receivers outscored the names 29.7 to 10.1. Tight ends outscored 4.8 to 2.5. Not great, but it still counts. In the flex, Josh Jacobs outscored Juju 27.6 to 18.2. Daniel Carlson outscored Justin Tucker by 15 to 5. And the Dolphins got 6 points to the Broncos 0. Honestly, it's kind of strange for Sam and the names to keep playing the number 19 ranked fantasy defense in the Denver Broncos, but that's being a homer for you. Either way, huge win for the frauds and kept the playoff chances alive as they move back to 500. Names pretty much keep their playoff spot locked. So after some of those abysmal scores, let's get into the fun fact of the week. This week, the fun fact of the week is that the Week 10 matchups were only a collective 7.88 points over 1,000 points. That's our lowest scoring week of the year so far, with an average of 100.78 points per team. We haven't gone under 1,000 points total in a week yet, but this one was definitely the closest. So to try to take care of that, let's hop into trades. This week is a trade deadline. Any trade that happens before the deadline that we did a trade talks for, well, let's get to it now. Welcome, folks, to this episode of Trade Talks. We have our two trade participants with the Gruesome Grinders and Randy's Donuts. We also have a few of our reporters on the call that will be asking some questions of you guys. First of all, just out of the gate, who initiated these trade talks? And the trade that we're talking about, of course, is Marquise Brown and some picks for Mike Evans and some picks. Who started those trade talks?
Noel. Noel's been shopping Mike Evans pretty damn hard, and so I was initially not biting at all, and then we had the Lockett injury, and then Antonio Brown got in trouble with the law, which is shocking. So I bit on the bait a little bit, and after some very smooth and easy discussions, we came to an agreement.
Noel, anything you want to add there?
Nope, that's about it.
Noel, my question for you, Noel, would you consider this a master bait for yourself?
I wouldn't consider this a master bait for myself. I don't know. Like Drew said, I was kind of shopping him around, and so it's really not a master bait, one might say. But yep.
Sam, you look like you have a question. Sam's having some connectivity problems. Thomas, looks like you have a question.
Thomas Strachan here from the Boston Bugle.
Boston Bugle.
So we've got some reports that you were trying to trade Mike Evans like a cheap whore. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, some might say that it was a masturbate, but when Mike Evans is the number one target down at the Bucks, and people call him the masturbate down there, they are going for crawfish and lobsters down there. I don't know. I wouldn't consider it whatever you called it, but
Sam,
this is going
well. I'm so glad that we did this. Sam, what's your question for the participants here?
He's frozen.
Currently, I got Sam. Yeah, I don't have.
All right, my question is Noel, your team is looking, a little bit different from last season. Potentially keeping Hollywood Brown? ?
Yeah, some might say that he's Hollywood Brown. Otherwise, might call him Marquise Brown. Some might call him Marquise Purple. I mean, depends on the jersey color, I guess. But we'll see what happens. If he's a wide receiver, if he's a tight end, maybe Thomas gets some.
All right, I guess this was a great answer to the question. Drew, are you planning on keeping Mike Evans?
That is to be determined. I don't know. This is more about I'm suddenly in the playoff picture, and I feel like I needed a boost to my receiving core.
You're in the playoff picture? How did that happen?
This is irrelevant.
Thomas Strachan for the Boston Bugle here. This one's for the Gruesome Grinders, GM Drew. What does a playoff picture look like for you?
Okay, I'm with all due respect, the internet connection was very interesting there. Could you repeat the question, sir?
Why do you suck?
Well, the answer to that is twofold. No, I'm kidding. You know what? Why don't you respect the desires that people have, and that's the way this league should be. It should be very inclusive and allowing of any preferences that there are out there.
Sam, you want to say something?
Yes, Drew. This is another question for you as well. How does this trade play into your master plan of getting all the 6th round picks? Or is this kind of a step back from that and you're moving away from that strategy?
Well, I still have all the picks that I need to acquire other 6th round picks. I do have, second, couple thirds, couple fourths. So I am able to masturbate others into giving me 6th round picks. I have Tony and I have Josh yet to work on that. So I will work on that to my master plan to masturbate them into giving me those 6th round picks.
All right, we got to cut this off. Thanks, boys. and to my fellow reporters out there, thanks for the great questions. The end of the press conference. Catch you guys later. Jesus Christ. All right, welcome back. Just here for a quick brief check-in before I send you on over to the Hold Minute.
Hey guys, it's the Hold Minute here on the Rathole. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I should probably put the camera up actually, in a spot where my face is on video here. But okay, so we are this is Tuesday. So this is the last Tuesday of the trading period before the trade deadline. So I wanted to remind everybody that yes, the trade deadline is after week 11 games. So Monday night, week 11, no more trading, according to Commissioner Zack Eichten. So a couple of things I wanted to discuss. Number one, Noel Teigen, I know you're listening. You only have a few days left to send your crappy trade offers. So I just wanted to let you know of that. I know everybody, unless I'm the only person you're sending crappy offers to, which in case, then nobody else has to worry about this message. But number two, thing I want to remind everybody about is I have 8 6th-round picks for next year. Only Tony and Josh have yet to give me theirs, so come on.
All right, thanks, Drew. Appreciate that in the Hold Minute. And we can all have a nice breather as we take a look at the rankings. Let's get right into it here. In game number 1, we have the Rock Plopstas up against Randy's Donuts in a game with massive playoff implications. If Randy's Donuts lose this game, they cannot get to a positive regular season record. And with these tight standings, that could mean Noel misses playoffs for the first time in his league history. The Donuts will not be starting Jared Goff, so that's good for him at least. But Scam Newton was picked up instead to go toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson, who did have a bad week last week. It could be a revenge game for Scam Newton as he goes up against the team that traded him away. He will be looking to, make that up. No McCaffrey this week, and as of recording, no official word on Joe Mixon, which means that the second back here for the Donuts, if he doesn't get a trade going, will be Kalen Ballage up against the duo of Miles Sanders and Aaron Jones. Michael Thomas and Calvin Ridley are up against Devontae Adams and Robbie Anderson, so those should be shootout as well. And right now, Nick Chubb will be up against an undisclosed flex player. But this is a really fun piece. We'll have a really good defensive battle between the number 3 fantasy defense in Pittsburgh up against number 5 fantasy defense in Tampa Bay. Definitely a great matchup for these two squads. In game number 2, we have the Spring Chickens versus the Google team name. So let's lay it out. Brennan is at 4-6. If he has to win this, game to have a positive record. He has to win out. If he wins out, he has a shot at playoffs. So this is a must win, and a lot need to go right in other places based on the points totals over the next couple of weeks for Brennan to make playoffs. So going into this matchup, there are some clear advantages in certain areas of the team between these two teams. Number 1, a slight narrow advantage, Sam, on quarterbacks between Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers. Kyler Murray just a little bit better than Rodgers this year for big point games. Number 2, massive advantage Brennan on running backs with Dalvin and potentially Chris Carson back from injury up against, as of right now, Melvin Gordon and Nyheim Hines. Wide receiver core, narrow advantage Sam with Metcalf and Fuller, both who had surprising down weeks in week 10, but up against some good matchups this week. And then Chase Claypool and Kenny Golladay for the Chickens. Tight end, slight advantage Brennan, I guess. Not really anything. And then in the flex spot, no advantage between Juju and Bobby Woods. Honestly, this can go any direction. It fully depends on if it's Google team names or the Spring Chickens showing up with their A game. Last week, neither did, but it's a new week and a new opportunity. In game number 3, we have 2 extremely fraudulent teams with playoff implications at stake up against each other with worse than trash and not trading Lamar. Quite frankly, Tony has already outshone any expectations we had for him this year. And Josh has been extremely lucky in his record this year. So Josh is pretty much guaranteed a spot in the playoffs unless something really bad happens. Tony needs to win. Tony needs to win at least 2 more games this season to have his first positive record in the league. And with the standings so close and his points for total being much lower, Tony pretty much needs to win out to make playoffs. But this could be the week to keep him on track to do that. Justin Herbert is up against the Jets, DeAndre Swift against Carolina, Damian Harris against Houston, Justin Jefferson against Dallas, DJ Moore against Detroit, Hawkinson against Carolina, and Chargers defense against the Jets. These matchups make this game extremely winnable for worse than trash. However, Lamar has some not trading Lamar has some good matchups. Lamar Jackson himself up against Tennessee, Zeke up against Minnesota defense, and McLaurin obviously having the potential to have a revenge game against his former team here with an easy Cincinnati matchup. So definitely advantage to Josh based on players, but advantage Tony based on matchups for sure. Either way, this is going to be a really close game in either direction. Game number 4, we have the Gruesome Grinders versus the Dog Sniffers. Both of these teams are 5-5 and need to win to really keep their playoff chances kicking. With 4 teams right now being at 5-5 and 2 at 4-6, with very winnable upcoming games for those 4 and 6 teams. Each game matters for each of those 6 teams. Thomas has been averaging 112.89 points for, where the Grinders have been averaging 119.5. But honestly, this week could be different, and it all falls on Mahomes to figure out his top target in week 11. Will it be Tyreek Hill or will it be Travis Kelce? Here's my bold prediction. Whichever team has more targets from Mahomes will win this matchup. But let's look at who else is in this matchup this week. 1, Mike Evans makes his Grinders debut after a trade with the Donuts this week, after news about Tyler Lockett, potential injury issues, and Antonio Brown just being a bum. Derrick Henry, a rough matchup up against Baltimore, but Mike Davis will officially get the start after McCaffrey was ruled out going into this week. Biggest question still for the Grinders, will Kenyon Drake or Chase Edmonds get the start? And are either going to be played at all, actually? For the Dog Sniffers, will Ronald Jones be able to have another 98-yard run? Will James Conner have a bounce-back week up against Jacksonville defense that held Aaron Jones to low points? And will Keenan Allen get any targets since they'll probably just be running the ball down the throat of the Jets? Honestly, who knows? A lot of unknown out there for both teams, and this is a true toss-up match. Now, let's head on over to the Pong Stars Game of the Week. Welcome to the Pong Stars Game of the Week, where we have the Commissioner's Cup as Zach and the Gluten Freaks take on Lucas and Pelicans on a bench. Again, that is Pelicans on a bench. Now, does this game have the same amount of playoff implications as some of the others? Of course it is. You know, Lucas is locked into the 10th spot coming into the postseason. We know that. It's all right. But as I've said every week, he can easily play a spoiler. So far, he's only had that lowest score in 5 out of 10 weeks so far, and 3 of those were in the first 3 weeks. So anything is possible, especially when we know that the Pelicans can put up 140 points in a week, and we know that the Gluten Frauds sometimes put up barely over 70. So this is a very winnable game for the Pelicans and a very losable game for the Frauds if they are not careful. But let's look more into the matchups. The Pelicans will have to choose between Carson Wentz against a tough Cleveland defense or Tua up against Denver. Who knows where he's going to go with that. Lucas also appears to be starting Rex Burkhead as his 2 Buffalo running backs are on bye alongside Giovanni Bernard in that other spot. Unknown if Joe Mixon will play yet, but Lucas has got to be hoping that he does not. The 3 best players still alive for this team, Adam Thielen, Devontae Parker, and Jonnu Smith. The first 2 have great matchups. Jonnu Smith, not so much up against Baltimore. And of course, Younghoe Koo can kick for 30 points a week. So, anything can really happen in that spot. For the Frauds, a potential stack of players from Ben Roethlisberger and Eric Ebron will be in the mix if Zach Ertz is not activated this week from IR. Josh Allen out this week, so Big Ben will have to step into that role. Duke Johnson and Kareem Hunt and Josh Jacobs, currently the set of starting backs in the mix this week, but it's not clear if all 3 will get the nod, as J.D. McKissick is in the running for a spot, and also Cooper Kupp as a flex player instead. Really unknown at this point. Starting receivers are, of course, Old Man Jones and Dean, and of course, the number 4. Yeah, I wrote that right. Number 4 ranked fantasy defense, the Miami Dolphins, will be in that defensive spot. Are the Dolphins good? Who's to say? It doesn't really matter. And that's the end of the matchup previews for this week. So let's head on over to the Pong Stars Pick'em. All right. Welcome, folks, to this week's episode of the Pong Stars Pick'em. Thank you to the Pick'em players here who are with me. Good to have everybody here this week. Let's get right into it. Game number 1, we have the Rock Plopstas versus Randy's Donuts. All right, Drew, we're going to start with you today. Rock Plopstas or Randy's Donuts?
This is a clash of perhaps the best rosters in the league, but I'm going to take the Rock Plopstas. I've been on the Rock Plopstas train for a while, despite the heartbreaking loss last week.
Wait, which team?
The Rock Plopstas.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, I don't know that team.
Yeah, what are you talking
The
about?
Rock Plopstas.
There we go. There, that was good. All right, John, over to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Rock Plopstas. It looks like I'm not gonna have to play McCaffrey, so lucky me.
All right, Noel, your own game.
Yeah, as much as I want to pick the Rock Plopstas, I'm gonna have to lock the Rock Plopstas this week.
Against yourself, risky. It seems like a jinx, and
Those never work.
I disapprove. Sam, over to you.
I have got the underdog Randy's Donuts this week, narrowly. I
Sam, why would you
said
do this to yourself?
Drew. I had the Gruesome Grinders narrowly beating the Rock Plopsters last week, and I think that Randy's Donuts can get it done this week with the upset.
All right,
Somebody's got optimism.
Thomas, over to you.
Not me.
As much as I like saying the Rock Plopstas, I'm gonna go with Randy's Donuts here, mainly because the only way I'm winning this thing is if everybody upsets this week.
Nice.
I'm going with the Rock Plopstas over Randy's Donuts. They're my lock after the news of McCaffrey probably not playing this week. Just don't think the firepower is going to be there quite enough to take down the behemoth of the Rock Plopstas. Let's go on to game number 2 then, where we have the Spring Chickens versus the Google team names. And Drew, we will start with you.
Back with me to begin things. I like it.
I can't hear you.
What?
Go. Continue.
I got the spring chickens. Dalvin Cook is due for a big game after a mediocre game last week. That's not going to happen twice in a row especially against Dallas defense. Give me the spring chickens behind a big game from Dalvin Cook.
John, down to you.
I am also going to take the spring chickens.
Noel?
Sorry, roommate. I'm picking Swan and the spring chickens.
It's tough to see for the roommate relationship there, but we'll go over to Sam.
He had COVID.
I have got the Googled team names. I think last week was the down week of the year. Big bounce back against Swan's team.
All right, Tomas.
Oh, I got the spring chickens here. I promised Swanee boy I'd lock him this week.
That's a big shout out for somebody who doesn't watch the show.
Kick him out
Now
of the
he's
league.
got to.
Brennan, if you watch this week, text baloney in the group message and I'll give you $5.
That's good.
Ooh,
You'll
I
not
love it. I love
There's
it.
no way he will. No, there's no way he will ever receive those $5.
Free $5 coming your way on Venmo.
I'm picking Sam. Everybody knows huge Google team names fan, so I'm picking Sam this week over the spring chickens. And Brennan doesn't know that I didn't pick him. So let's move on to game number 3, where we have worse than trash versus not trading Lamar. 2 extremely fraudulent teams up against each other here in week 11. Drew, we'll start with you.
I'm gonna go with not trading Lamar. I think they're not as fraudulent as worse than trash. This is a team of, this is a battle of who can be less fraudulent, and I got not trading Lamar.
The battle of the frauds.
All right, John.
I agree with Drew. I think of the 2 most fraudulent teams in the league, I like Josh's roster a lot better. So it's not quite as young, but more talented. So I'm going to roll with the not trading Lamar.
Well seasoned. Noel, who you got?
Last time I picked Tony, he won, so we're going with Tony again. Sorry, Josh, but Lamar is not the Lamar of last year.
Not even close.
Not even.
Sad.
Yeah.
Big rip.
Hey, he's not trading Lamar though, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Good thing you held on to him.
Sam, who you got?
I have got Josh and not trading Lamar.
And Tomas.
Again, worse than trash. Need some upsets here.
All right. And I'm going with
Tony probably wouldn't call it an upset.
Tony's the favorite to win the title this year. Didn't you hear?
Yeah,
He already won the title.
Hold on,
He
I gotta
beat
change
Noel
my
twice.
pick real quick.
TonyTownsendTV.org. He is the favorite to win the title this year. I'm going with
He
Josh.
already won the title twice. He beat Noel.
That's true.
Exactly.
I need him to lose I need him to do the punishment, and then the entire time he's doing the punishment, we can ask him if his 27 first-round picks are worth it.
I'm picking Josh. All right, let's move on. Let's go to game number 4, where we have the gruesome grinders versus the dog sniffers. Drew, we'll start with you.
So the gruesome grinders have gotten lucky the last few weeks, which is a bit of a change from the beginning. It's going to keep rolling. Gonna go above 500 here. Got the gruesome grinders.
Wow.
John?
Nice.
Bold.
I used to be a big GG's guy, but some stuff happened last week. Drew kind of threw a few hexes on me, said that his team was done for, just wow. Couldn't believe it. 20% chance, and he said he had no chance. So I'm going to take the dog sniffers. And that's my lock.
Oh, there we go. All right. Noel, who you got?
I love you, John.
I'm picking Drew.
Okay. Sammer.
I've got Drew and the Gruesome Grinders. I think this team is starting to hit their stride right before the playoffs, and I think they're just going to keep it rolling.
All right, Tomas.
Well, you see, here's the reason I'm picking myself. He has Mahomes and I have Kelsey. That's my only chance.
You better hope
All
it's
the
not
touchdowns
Tyreek,
go to
'cause
Kelsey.
that's what screwed me was Tyreek. So, and because of that, I am choosing Drew and the Gruesome Grinders. It's going to be the Tyreek Hill show again, and it's going to make Thomas very sad, like it made me sad a couple weeks.
Kelsey show. He's going for 40.
All right. Let's move on to game number 5, the Pong Stars Game of the Week, the Commissioner Battle of Zack and the Gluten Frauds versus Lucas and Pelicans on a bench. That is Pelicans on a bench. Drew, we'll start with you.
I lock Gluten Frauds, Gluten Freaks, whatever the name is now. They're winning this game.
They're still on the fraud list, so they are the frauds.
Even though they scored 130.
130 last week, highest point total of the week. Things are looking up for the Gluten Freaks, Frauds,
That frauds,
Freaks.
Yeah. Nope.
The fraud freaks.
I'm locking the Gluten Freaks.
The Gluten Frauds. All right, Gluten Frauds locked for Drew.
I'm locking the Gluten
John.
Freaks.
You know, gotta say, great game of the week. Massive playoff implications on both sides. Couldn't have picked a better one myself.
Salty at all.
Um,
Less salty than a saltine cracker.
that being said,
Salty.
I believe I'm going to take the Gluten Frauds. Sorry, Lucas. I don't know. I'm not locking against Lucas, so take that as a compliment, I guess.
That is a compliment. Definitely plenty of opportunity for Lucas on this one. Noel?
Yeah, I'm going with the freaking frauds, or the gluten freaks or frauds or whatever.
We got it in one. Great. Sam?
I have got the GFs. I got the Gluten Freaks, Frauds, whatever they're called, winning the Commissioner's Cup.
We're just a bunch of gluten friends over here.
Wait,
Thomas?
are the gluten friends now?
Yep, I'm friends with all the gluten. For sure. Make friends with your enemies and then they won't attack you. That's how it works, right?
Sure.
Okay, let's move on. Come on.
All right.
Jon Snow.
Thomas?
I have the Pelicans on a bench. That is Pelicans on a bench.
Yep.
That
All
is
right.
Pelicans on a
Oh,
bench.
also my lock is the Gluten Freaks, Frauds, whatever they are. I
Thank
forgot
you.
to say lock. My bad.
The Pelicans on a bench. That is the Pelicans on a bench. They are going with one running back this week, it looks like.
So far.
Well, you never know.
I
It also
think
looks like
Zach-
the gluten frauds aren't going with the quarterbacks. So
Accurate.
Zach, I think you should change your name to the Luton Freaks and pick up Luton from the
Jags.
Jags.
Yes.
Great. That's a great bit. That's a great goof.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I'm gonna go with the gluten frauds,
Oh,
Zach, that's not too excited.
but that's good. I'm glad I got that out. All right. We got a bonus question this week. It's gonna be a good one. We're gonna start with Drew. Drew, will Tony in Worse Than Trash score more than his average points of 108.3?
I'm gonna say yes because he has a few really good matchups based on his starting lineup this week. So I'm gonna say yes for Worse Than Trash, scoring over 108 points this week.
I actually have to look at this.
108.3. Does that change your answer?
What was it?
108.3.
No,
That point
that
three.
does not. I don't know what I
What if
said.
he
but I'm,
gets it
I'm
right
taking the
on?
over. I'm
108.
taking the over. Taking the over.
All right,
Final
John, you
answer.
taking the over?
No.
He's on fraud watch from John. All right, confirmed. Noel?
Yeah, I originally said no, but Drew made a good point. He's got all green matchups, it looks like. So I think he'll get it narrowly,
Narrow.
as one might say.
All right, Sammer, how narrowly is Tony gonna miss or hit this?
I've got the under.
And Thomas?
Doubling down. That's a yes, sir, from me.
Wow.
But we can double down.
Wait, he's doubling. He's gonna score 216.
Yep, confirmed.
At least.
0.6.
Can I
Didn't
double
you
the
say-
hard 19, please? Drew,
What?
What?
can I double the hard 19?
Hey, that would be dumb. Whoever did that was dumb.
Tony will score at least 108.3 points. He's going to score 109.2, guaranteed. Narrowly. And that is all we have. Let's look at the standings. We had a pretty rough week last week. Highest score was 4. Lowest score was 0.
Wait, who scored 0?
Thomas scored 0.
That guy.
You have to point down then.
In the
Everybody point to where Thomas is on your screen.
Wait,
Good thing we're recording from mine. All right. In the lead, we have Sam.
That's why it'll be funny.
We have Sam at 38 points. In the lead, we have, or second place rather, we have Drew at 37, Noel at 36, bit of a drop to Zach at 33, John at 31, and then Thomas not moving from the week before at 20.
I'm not last again. Woohoo!
All right. Thanks for playing, boys. Remember, this goes all the way through playoffs. So we still have, including this week, 6 weeks remaining. Plenty of time for folks to catch up. So we will see y'all soon. Here's the scoreboard. All right. Thanks, Pick'em players. Love to see everybody here for the episode. And it's definitely somewhat close standings in that. We still got plenty of time, though. That's all we have for this week on the Rat Hole. We have 2 weeks of regular season after this episode, and then the playoffs are coming up really quick, and they are very much still up in the air. So that's all we have for this week. Thanks for watching, and thank you for voting.
I just realized Noel and Sam are in the same building, and they don't do this together.
No, we don't
We're not
record
in the same
together.
building. We have our own team facilities. COVID.
Well, yeah,
Good
but
point,
we
good
didn't.
point.
I was not,
Socially
I was
distancing
I was
group.
not elected assistant commissioner, so there's not a bubble in place.
We're the only people in South Dakota that are currently socially distancing.
I want to see Sam lick a doorknob and his excuse be I'm immune to COVID. That's why I licked the doorknob.